Once the switching is done. Yeah, go.
Shall we start?
Yeah.
Okay. A very warm good afternoon to one and all present here. I welcome you all to the last session of Winter School conducted by GDSC NIT Andhra. I am Shreyas, will be the host for your today's session, and it is my immense pleasure to start this session. Okay, before starting the session, it is none of our business, but I just wanted to know that how many of you like to play games on mobile or laptop? I am damn sure that those who are watching out there on YouTube, many are there PUBG lovers, Free Fire lovers. Am I right? Yeah, I am also COC player. I am a classic game lover. Yeah, you can comment there. Yeah, all right then. You might be thinking that why I am asking this to you. And the answer is our today's guest speaker. And I know many of you are excited to see him. And now without delay, we will proceed further. I would like to invite our guest speaker, the multi-talented personality, Mr. Nikhil Malankar, the founder and CEO of Game On Studios, a game developer, a pioneer entrepreneur, a mentor, author, teacher, and also an investor. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and joining us despite of your busy schedule. And welcome to the Winter School conducted by GDSC NIT Andhra. Now, I would like to call upon Ritvik to take over the session.
Thanks a lot, Shreyas. First off, the Winter School has been started around 9 days ago. And over the course of 9 days in 3 different courses, we have been continuously going on by teaching you people on 3 different topics, Git, GitHub, web development, and DSA. So what we really want is a culture incorporated in the society where development is not taken as a job only meant for the nerds, but anyone can do it. So we are trying to incorporate this culture into anyone possible, everywhere, if possible. And so if web development is a start for you to get into programming, then game development is the very next aspect of it, which many of the developers seek into. And apologies for not giving my introduction. I'm Ritvik. I'm the GDSC lead for this chapter of GDSC NIT Andhra Pradesh. And today we called in Nikhil Malankar for giving a final session, and today being the conclusion session of Winter School. Let's also end this year and this session with a blast by actually talking about game development. Many of you are interested in playing games. Many of us play games many of them actually play games for a living, where they're actually making multi-million-dollar empires out of games itself. So now we will go back behind the scenes as to how these games are made, what goes into game development, and also a little understanding about how our career path need to be chosen in this world where recession is being spoken around everywhere. So, Nikhil, thank you for coming despite your busy schedule. And we can already see your setup, and this already makes us believe that you're a hardcore gamer yourself. So, we can go ahead and you can share with us your experiences and what it takes to be a game developer.
Sure. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Thanks a lot for inviting me for this session, and thanks a lot for having me as the very last speaker. It's a great honor for me to be able to conclude this session for you all. And I hope that each and every one of you who have been a part of this Winter School have taken away some of the other interesting aspects about career development. Today, I'm here to talk about what everyone loves to do, gaming, right? And I've been fortunate enough to be in this industry ever since I was a 3-year-old kid. I was exposed to this industry primarily by starting playing games. So I remember sitting on my dad's lap on this Windows 95 system, having started playing this game called Doom. I'm not sure how many of you guys know about the classic old Doom. A lot of people know about the latest one, but a very few know about the one that was popular back in the 90s. So I started playing games from there. Then I started playing all the classics like your Mario, Road Rash, Midtown Madness. And that was essentially my journey into gaming per se. And it brings me great pleasure to see that nowadays gaming as a medium is accepted as a full-fledged career option. Because earlier, whenever we used to talk about gaming or making games, it used to not be taken in the serious light as it should have been. So very recently, Government of India has also recognized esports as a proper multi-sports medium, and it is now under the Departments of Sports and Youth Affairs. So that's a great validation for anyone who wants to make their way into the field of gaming. Not just gaming, but also game making or game development is also a great career to be a part of. So what we'll do is we'll divide this session into two sessions. One is a roadmap of how you or anyone can become a game developer, and second, what are the various career options available in this industry. So let's get started on the roadmap essentially. So in order to understand, dissect what a game is. A game is essentially a single piece of activity wherein you involve yourself in multiple different activities, right? Like, let's say, for example, you're playing this game called GTA Vice City. Okay, in GTA Vice City, you have a character that you can control. You can go out on different missions if you want. You can, even deviate from those missions and start driving cars. So there are these multiple activities that you can do inside the game, or even a simple game like 2048, wherein you're just swiping up, down, left, right to match numbers. Every game is a piece of activity that you can involve yourself in. Now, in order for you to be able to make a game, you have to dissect what are the various different sub activities that constitute your overall game. In the case of a big game like GTA Vice City, you are essentially creating multiple systems inside the game. Okay, so the very first and foremost important aspect of any game development process is that you need to write down all of these things. Okay, you want to make a game like GTA, you want to make a game like Subway Surfer, but if you start developing that game without having any vision, without having anything documented, then eventually you will be running into roadblocks and you will keep on forgetting what you started off with. Maybe you planned out 100 different features for your game, but out of that, when you're into the development, you'll only be able to recall maybe 60 features. 40 of the features will get lost. So that is the reason why the first and foremost step in game development is creation of a document, which is known popularly as game design document and abbreviated as GDD. Once you have this document, you will have to write down every single thing that you can potentially think of about your game, be it your game's name, be it your game's overall high pitch concept, be it your game's art style. Is it a cartoonish game? Is it a realistic game? Then the various different game mechanics. What are the different types of inputs that you will constitute for your game? Is it a mobile game? Is it a PC game? If it is a PC game, then what kind of controls are required? Will it be a controller based game, or will these controls be on keyboard? Will there be a mouse input? All of these things, all of the granular, smaller details need to be mentioned in this document. And this itself, this process itself is done by someone known as a game designer. Now, there are two different job roles in game development which are majorly confused with one another. One is a game designer and one is a game artist. So the role of a game designer is often considered that game designer is someone who can make art, who can make 3D artwork or something, but that's not the case. Game designer's role is essentially to make that document that we just spoke of. What is the role of a game design artist? We'll explore a little bit later, but just keep this thought in your head that a game designer's job role is not to create art. It is to create the flow of the game. It is to create that entire thought process, like what will happen after you complete level 1? How will you show the tutorial to your player? What are the kind of various inputs that will go into picture inside the game? So all of these different flows, different game mechanics are something that are decided by a game designer. Once that game design document is done, then comes the role of a game designer and a game programmer, wherein both of these sit together and create a very basic version of your game, which is known as your game prototype. Now, what is a prototype? It has very bare bones blockings and your basic core functionality. So if you look at game development as a perspective from a game being developed from zero, you will kind of get confused and as to what is happening, because earlier when you are starting to play a game, you're exposed directly to these massive worlds, to all these beautiful looking graphics, everything coming together with each other. But when you're starting the game development process from zero, you are actually giving birth to essentially a child, right? So let's say, for example, a 20-year-old child will definitely not look, somewhat like a 1-year-old baby. And that 1-year-old baby, if you were to project his image 20 years later, you will not be able to imagine the kind of changes that the baby will go through, right? So that's the same case with the game as well. Whatever you start making is extremely bare bones. It does not have all the kind of possibilities that you can think of. You have to sit down and create those small possibilities and code each and everything. So a prototype is essentially that very basic version. That is that baby that is going to eventually take the form of an adult. So what you really need to do is create and give a very basic level of understanding to that baby. When a baby is born, we first teach the baby how to walk and run. Then they are exposed to the world of schooling. Then they learn alphabets. Then they learn how to read paragraphs. Then they are exposed to the world of subjects. In a similar fashion, when a game is developed, you start off with a basic prototype, wherein you just take, for example, if it's a game like Subway Surfer, then what you'll do is you'll take a very basic small cube, and you will make sure that the cube is able to go left and right. And then the next layer would be for you to spawn obstacles. Like obstacles will come from front towards you. Okay. So all of these small things you need to test out at the very beginning. And if and only if these prototype things are enjoyable to play, then you move on to the next level, wherein you essentially create all these assets, create characters, create all the artwork required for the game. And that is when you enter the production stage. So up until now, whatever we talked about from your game design document to your prototyping, that was pre-production. Once this is done, you move ahead to the production stage. Now, what happens in a production stage? It's simple. Whatever you've built inside your prototype stage, whatever game design document you have created, you rely on that. So think of it this way. A child finishes his school education. That gives him the basics of what is required to go out there in the real world. Then once they enter into the college, think of that as a primary bridge between your school life and your real life. Okay. Now college is your stepping stone for entering into the real life, getting jobs and all. Okay. Your production stage is essentially what you can regard as the college stage for your game, wherein you are finishing your game, where you're giving all the finishing touches for your game. You're making sure that all your controls are working fine, because once you go ahead into the real world, you as a developer, you will have no control on how people will play your game, right? Like let's say, for example, you're making a game, you're testing it out with a couple of friends, 5 to 6 people. You can go and talk to them that, hey, this is the controls that I've planned for the game. You're not playing my game right. But the real thing is that however they are playing is actually how real players are going to end up playing your game. That is the reason why we encounter so many bugs in so-called unfinished games, because these games are not thoroughly tested, and these people they are going to play the game in their level of understanding. So you need to make sure that your game is developed according to the people's mindset and how they will play the game. You need to make sure that whatever you're developing handles all the edge cases. Edge cases in the sense, say for example, inside a game like GTA Vice City, Tommy Vercetti, the main protagonist of the game, he cannot swim. Okay, so whenever he enters the water, you kind of die once you enter that water. But at the same time, if you take a look at a game like GTA 5, in that Michael Trevor and all these people, they can swim. Okay, so all of these things are carefully taken into consideration by the game developers, and thereby they have been input inside the game. So every single thing has to be taken care of in the production stage. Once production stage is done, then we move towards the testing phase. Now think of testing period as like your job interviews, okay, wherein you are then evaluated for your capabilities. In the testing phase, if something does not go right, then we go back to the production, we fix those things. And then once we are satisfied with the game, that's when we launch the game to the general public. And that is when the real story begins. See, when you're doing a job or something, that's the real test of your talent, whatever you've learned so far. And there might be a possibility that you might like one job, you might not like one job. So in that case, let's say, for example, drawing parallels with a game, if a game is not working out in the market, Sometimes the best situation would be after you test the game for with a certain set of people. Once you launch the game, and if it is not working, there are two things you can do. One is either you fix the game heavily, you invest more time, more effort into making sure that updated gets out there in the market, and we take user feedback. That can be one approach. Or second would be to scrap your game and work on the next idea. And one thing over here that I would always like to tell people is that whenever you're working on some project, when you're working on any idea, do not be afraid to share the idea with people around you and take feedback. A lot of people, in modern times, they watch these movies around Facebook that this guy stole that idea, etc., etc. Here's the thing: people may be, you talk about your idea, people may be stealing your idea, but they cannot steal the way that you will execute your idea. I'll take my example. We are working on this game called Mumbai Gullies, which is an open world game based on the city of Mumbai. I've been talking about this idea since the last decade. I got this idea in 2009, and I started talking about this idea, I think, in 2010, 11, with people who, who thought that this would be an interesting idea. And while people around, here's the thing about ideas is that sometimes some ideas are so grand that you just need that level of validation from people around you to be able to shape that idea into a product. Because till the point of time that is an idea in your head, it serves no purpose. Take for example, let's say if Mark Zuckerberg thought that Facebook was a great idea and he just kept that product to himself, he did not test the product into his campus, he did not take user validation feedback, then it would have never been a successful company as we know today how it is. So always share your idea with a trusted few folks. If you are not confident that your idea might get leaked, then there are ways to tackle that as well. There is something known as a non-disclosure agreement. So if you feel that someone might be stealing your idea, then you can work out a non-disclosure agreement and get that signed by someone who you think that will be playing your game or giving you feedback. So overall, that is the process. And once the game goes out in the market, that's when the real story begins. Because as I said, right, when your game is in development, it's very much in your control. You can test it out. You can go ahead with your friends and tell them that how to play your game. But when it is out in the market, that's not the case whatsoever. So, there was this popular game called Cyberpunk 2077. All of us played that game, and a lot of us were disappointed because the game had a lot of bugs. And that's primarily because the developers did not test it as extensively as they should have, because players are going to try all kinds of crazy stuff. They're going to go on top of cars. They're going to jump out from a running car. They're going to, have multiple levels of interaction. They're going to kick some objects randomly. So all of these things need to be taken care of in the production phase. And sometimes it just so happens that, not sometimes, in fact, all the time, it just so happens that you're not able to address all the issues. See, when it comes to a product, 60 to 70% of the efforts is essentially fixing all the bugs and all. Okay. So take, for example, if you are creating a game that is not well tested, then of course there will be bugs in the game. And I will guarantee and tell you that whatever game gets launched, 100% has some or the other bugs. The best of the best games that we've played so far have the minimal amount of bugs. So it is not possible for any game developer to ship out a completely bug-free game. There will always be some sorts of issues, because at the end of the day we are dealing with software, and software always has some or the other issues. So it is okay if your game has some amount of bugs, but you need to thoroughly test your game out there and create those issue list. Okay, whenever a game gets tested, there is a list of issues that gets logged. Okay, so this is a proper Excel sheet that gets maintained with the game developers, wherein they say that, okay, this is a bug, this is replicated in so and so way, and it can be fixed in so and so way. So whenever you fix one bug, there might be a possibility that two other bugs pop up on its place. That's completely normal. And the other part is to focus on deadlines. Whenever you're making a game, make sure that the development process does not get prolonged after a certain level. It is okay if you plan out, say, 6 months of development time and the game gets delayed by a month or two. That is fine. But if it gets delayed beyond that, then you have to realize one thing, that till the point of time your game is in the development mode, there is no real purpose that is being solved. Since you're not reaching out to your players, you're not able to get that feedback. That's the reason why you're stuck in the development loop, and there will always be some or the other issues that you think that you can fix. So you have to take a calculated risk on how many issues you need to solve, and what is the something known as a minimum viable product that you can bring out to the market. Getting a minimum viable product is extremely important, because you'll continuously keep on updating your game. You will always think that this is a new feature that I can add it quickly, and just so it happens that once you add that feature, three other features break down. And this, in the production cycle, we've observed countless number of times. And in the early days, we used to make this mistake that, okay, this feature is only going to take us 5 days of development time. We'll give those 5 days, and then we'll add that, and then we'll ship the game. After adding those features, there used to be other things that used to get broken. So just a simple example, we had all our ad networks running properly, and then we added a new mechanism wherein a player could revive after certain turns. So just to have that revive mechanism, we had to tinker around with our ad networks. We had to do a lot of code changes. So something that we estimated would take us 5 days took us 15 days of development time, and that kind of prolonged the entire development journey. So this is something that developers need to keep in mind, is that you can keep on adding more and more features. The list is endless, but till the point of time you're not out there in the market, you're not on people's devices, you're not serving any real purpose, and that's essentially not how game development should be approached. You need you're developing games for other people to play. So there's no point in keeping the game to yourself. There's no point in keeping the game enclosed inside what is known as the development hell if a game gets prolonged. So all in all, that is the essentially process of game development. I'll just take a small water break. So just to summarize, you start off by creating something known as a game design document, GDD, as popularly known in the game development world. You then move ahead to the prototyping stage, wherein you kind of work out the basics of a game. Once that is done, then you move to the production stage. In production stage, you create all the modules that are required for your game. You do all the integration. You add your ad networks. You add your in-app purchases. You create your 3D models. You create your animations. All of these processes are done in the production stage. Once production stage is done, then you move ahead to the testing phase. In testing phase, you test out all the features, if at all the features are working in the game or not. Once that is done, then you launch the game. Once you're satisfied with the testing output, then you launch the game. And after that, a development cycle begins, wherein you start maintaining the game in terms of all the bugs that may arise once people are playing. So I'll take a small break over here, and I'll go ahead and open up the round for Q&A, and then we will move ahead to the part where we talk about careers in game development. So GDSC team, just requesting you all, if at all someone has any kind of questions, happy to answer them.
Participants, please feel free to message in the live chat of YouTube if you have any questions. Our team will look into that and answer your queries. Before we go into while participants are taking time in answering their queries, Nikhil, I have a question from my side. Generally, right now there is a social stigma saying that games are being harmful to the society, and many underage kids are lying about their age and playing games that are above age, right? And recently we have also seen a shift in complete terms of game development, where initially they used to focus on a conceptual oriented basis, but now those concepts are turning more violent, right? People are preferring more violent games, and there are studies that are also saying that it may affect the persona of a child who is learning these things as they're growing up. So do you think that is true, or in fact, like what kind of an idea should a game developer keep in mind before they conceptualize any idea before going into the market?
I would say that certainly there is, whenever someone is exposed to an entertainment medium, and I'll not just stick to games, I'll call this entertainment medium. It is also on the person itself on where they are positioning themselves. So in case of games that are violent in nature, there is something known as a ESRB rating, or a rating that goes saying that this game should not be played by someone who is under a certain set of age. And if it is being played by someone like that, then they need to be under parental guidance. So I would say that violence is essentially all around us. Like even if you take a look at movies and TV series, nobody says that ban this movie because it is starting to incite violence after people are watching them. So it is a medium of entertainment. There will always be things that are scheduled properly, because the other aspects are also very important. Spending time with your family is important. Going out with friends is important. Education is important. You need to also make sure that you're completing your assignments on time, getting proper degrees for your future. If you're an adult, then going to office. So all of these things are equally important. I would say approximately 1.5 or 2 hours time is good enough to play a hardcore game. And on the other side, nowadays we are exposed to the world of casual games, wherein just these smaller pieces of experiences, they help us during a commute via train journey or something. So I think that also keeps on refreshing our mind. But if you want to take out time and put it inside your schedule, I would say maybe come home, relax, have your dinner, talk with your family, and then take out some personal time, 1.5 hour, 2 hours. I think that should be the optimum time to play game. And the other aspect is on game addiction. I would also like to talk a little bit on this. And there's also this stigma around game addiction that games are so addictive that people just play these on and on and on. So I think there also needs to be some bit of awareness created around games, because see, at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, everything has a certain level of addiction factor to it. Too much of drinking water is also not good for health. Too much of eating is not good for health. Too much watching TV is not good for health. Similarly, playing games for a prolonged period of time is also not good for you. So I would say you need to create a proper schedule and put an entertainment time allocated just to play games. And I think that should be able to kind of solve this issue.
Thanks a lot, Nikhil. I think you're one of the few game developers who agree that we need to have life outside of gaming as well. Because most of the interviews that you see online are either people who sit in their basements and just usually you see these Swedish and American gamers who just game for a very long time, right?
Yeah.
So again, coming into the topic of game development, so there are some questions that are popping up. We'll go back to that after this last question. What are your top 3 recommendations for games? One hardcore game, one commuter game which you want to play normally, and a third game you want to play if you're bored with the first 2 games. So your top 3 games recommendations.
Okay, so first one, hardcore game, Red Dead Redemption 2. That's an absolutely amazing game. Second, during your commute, I have 2 recommendations, and I say this 2048 because that's a number game that I like to play. And I would say, considering all the age groups, perhaps Candy Crush, because that can be played by a 3-year-old kid to a 60-year-old person. And if you're bored of the other 2, then I would say go ahead, visit the old classics, perhaps boot up a Midtown Madness or a Road Rash. I think those are also some games that can refresh your nostalgia. So yeah.
Yeah, gaming culture reunite again. It's a long time that we have heard these Road Rash actually from people, because many people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So coming to questions from the viewers, the first question is from Vivek, who asks, how Web 3.0 is bringing changes for gaming world? So
so Web 3.0 is pretty interesting, and a lot of people have a firm understanding that Web 3 will completely replace Web 2. I have a slightly different approach to this. I would say that both of these things will work together with each other. Web3 kind of gives you ownership to certain assets. But if you think of it from a future perspective, see, Facebook came in, they created their platform, and they dominated through that platform. And here is a matter of all, this decentralization, ownership being to the users, etc., etc. But eventually, there will still be a point of time, and this is majorly a concept of economics, that once you give out something in supply, eventually there will be someone who will be controlling that supply and regulating all of that. So Web 3.0 as a concept is amazing, and the part of ownership wherein people will get ownership to their assets is great. But I would still have a doubt that eventually there will be certain corporations again coming into picture and they will be controlling, because at the end of the day, if I am a game developer and I'm giving ownership of my assets to someone who is playing a game, I need to have some level of control onto that asset, wherein I can control if at all that asset is being misused in some or the other way. So that's there. And in terms of Web 3.0, the concept itself is great. Earlier we moved from a Web 1.0, which was essentially just text being populated on the internet, text and images. Then we moved on to social media, wherein we could interact with each other. And now Web 3.0 is going to enable us to have ownership of all the content that we have. So it's a great direction that we are moving in, and I personally am looking forward to how this will pan out, because this is very early stages of what we are looking, and it is just the surface that we are scratching. I'm looking forward to proper use cases in games. Right now, there are some Web3 games, but these are mostly in a way that people enter these games just to monetize through their assets and all. So I believe that games as an entertainment medium should be beyond that. What they are right now, I would say we are at a perfect position. And I think these early concepts of Web3 games where you buy assets and then trade them, that is kind of taking away the essence of what kind of games we have experienced and what kind of memories we have had over the years. So that's just my small opinion on Web3 gaming.
So Vivek, I think you have received the answer for what you were expecting. So there are other questions from Raja. Raja's question is about game addiction, and we have already spoken about that because everything right now is addicting itself. And so I think that question is already answered before. And so there's another question by Yashwant who wants to know, is doing games on theme of violence better or theme of kindness?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
He wants to know if gaming, the game development, is better to do on the themes of either violence or kindness. So what would be better for development?
It really depends on you as a game developer, what you want to achieve. See, at the end of the day, there is a market for everything. Be it a casual game, be it a racing game, be it a shooting game, right? There is market for everything. What you need to decide is what is the driving factor for you, what is the kind of message that you want to give out in the market through your game, what impact you want to make. So for us, I'll give a small example. We are making Mumbai Release. So for us, the message was that we wanted to create a game based on the city of Mumbai, wherein people can explore the city. And for us to make this happen, we need to have a storyline in place. And that storyline, the interesting storyline, can be something based in the 90s, wherein Mumbai had a lot of gang wars, etc., etc. So you have to approach it thematically, and at the same time, say for example, there's this game called Monument Valley, which is a puzzle-based game, right? That game, you cannot have violence in that game. That needs to be a very small, subtle playing game. So it depends on the concept that you're trying to tackle, a concept that you're trying to build, and everything else just builds on top of that. So to answer your question, which game might work better? I think that might be a question. It again depends on how effectively you are able to market your game. So there is a market for violent games, there is a market for casual games, there is a market for racing games, there is a market for racing, violent racing games. So I remember this game called Split Second Velocity, which is a very interesting game. If you guys haven't played that game, then I would definitely recommend to try that game out. So I mean, there's a market for everything. So it just depends on what kind of game you want to make, and then just market it in that fashion.
So I hope that answers your question, Yashwant. So there are another question by Fawn who wants to know regarding marketing at scale for I think he's asking about entrepreneurial aspects of game development. I think that can be answered on the career aspects of game development, I guess. So I think those are the questions that we received till now. Nikhil, I think you can continue forward with the careers in game development and how to proceed with it.
Sure. Thanks a lot for the wonderful questions. I hope I was able to answer your questions to the best of my capability. And now moving forward in regards to careers in game development. So we'll divide this into two sections. One is your own journey in game development as an indie game developer, and the second part being you working for someone else, some other established gaming company to start off your career as a job. So let's start off with the first part. If you want to make your own game, you need to keep certain things in mind. One is definitely we talked about the overall process, so that you need to master. Over here, you have to take two decisions. One is either you want to make the game all by yourself, become a solo game developer, or second is work with a team. Now, in solo game development, there are advantages and disadvantages both. Advantages that everything is based on your own decisions, and the disadvantages, everything is based on your own decisions. So sometimes what happens is that you might want to make something really cool, and you decide that it'll take me so much time. Eventually there will come a point, say for example 6 months of development time you've put in, there will come a point of time when you'll start to question yourself, saying that, hey, is this something that I really want to do? And there will be a lot of pressure on you because you want to create the art, you want to create the sounds, you want to write your own code. So there will be a lot of pressure on you in terms of making that game. Now, I'm not discouraging anyone to become a solo game developer. By all means, if you think that that is something that you can manage, go ahead, try that out, because there are a lot of successful solo game developers as well. One of the biggest successful example of a really good game is Minecraft, which was started off by one single game developer, but now it has grown, it has become big, and now it is also sold to Microsoft. So now there's a proper team maintaining that game. So you can, as a solo game developer, also make a successful game, but the chances of that are very slim. So out of say 10,000 odd game developers, you will be one of them if you make it a success. And that's the hardcore reality that success stories are talked about in abundance, failure stories are not. So we will never come to know the tens and hundreds and thousands of games that were into the development process but never saw the light of the day. And that's just the sad reality of it. It's just a very hardcore competition out there, and you need to make sure that you are equipping yourself with all the knowledge that is required, along with an understanding of how much time it will take for you to finish the game, because that is the most important. Because as a solo game developer, you are probably making this as a hobby. Maybe you are a student, maybe you have a full-time job to support yourself, or maybe if you don't have any of that, then this game is your everything, right? So till the point of time your game is not out there in the market, it is all of your life is dependent on this game. On the other hand, if you're working with a team, things become not very easy, but relatively easier as compared to that of a solo game developer. So when you're working with a team, you have other people to share your headspace with, you have people to talk to, you have people to take care of certain set of aspects, and that helps you in two ways. One, it shortens your development time. Second, it does not expose you to something known as burnout. Okay, now what is burnout? It's essentially you're doing the same thing again and again, and then there comes to a point of time where you get bored of your idea, and then either you give up or you just continue down the lane, and then the product might not be as you envisioned it to be. So that's one. The other aspect is, once you're working with a team, you get to interact with a lot of people and you get a lot of interesting ideas to the table. One biggest disadvantage for a solo developer is that when they are making the game, they themselves are testing the game. And if you're making a game and testing it, you will not get proper feedback in terms of how the game will be played by the masses. Say, for example, you're making the game by yourself, and then you are potentially looking at 1 lakh people playing your game. Then in that case, how will these 1 lakh people play the game? What are the different ways through which they can play the game? So that is the biggest disadvantage for a solo game developer to while making the game, is that they do not know how other people will play their game. The other, when you're working with a team, you are testing the game out not just by yourself but also with the team. And at the same time, in both the cases, you need to have a separate tester group. So for example, you're making your game in the development team, it is being tested by the team members day in, day out. So there is a certain level of muscle memory that kicks in, saying that, hey, I'm supposed to play this game only in this way. but that's not the case. When you give the game out to the other people, they will play the game in some other way that you will not be able to imagine as well. So it is very important for you to test the game with someone who is not a part of your development team, because your development team knows how to play the game and they'll play it only in that, but get to know the extensive bugs that will happen. So that's one thing. Now, one thing you have to realize and keep in mind is that your first, third, fourth, fifth, there is no guarantee that any of your games will be successful. So it is really a matter of luck that plays into picture, because you can make a game and according to you that game might be good, but when it goes out in the market, maybe people might not like it. I'll give you a small example. There was this company which back in the 2000s, they used to make games, and they made a lot of games. They made a first game was okayish. They made the second game was again fairly popular. They made the 10th game tanked completely. Like this, they went on making games and they were merely surviving. And they decided that we'll now make one last try, and if this game does not work out, we'll shut down the company. This was their 53rd game, 53rd or 52nd game, and they gave it a try. And if the game would not work out, they were at a risk of shutting down their operations. I'll tell you the name of the game, and then you'll figure out what happened next. The name of the game was Angry Birds, and the company that I'm talking about is Rovio. So this was their 52nd or 53rd try wherein they got success. And this company was established in 2004 or something, if I remember correctly. So it took them a while. There's also another example of this game that was launched on the App Store. For almost a year, there were no downloads on the game. It had less than 100 downloads or so. And the developer had almost forgotten about the game. He was not even thinking that the game will do anything well. And a year later, one popular YouTuber, he put out a video called "Do Not Play This Game," and the name of the YouTuber was PewDiePie, and the name of the game was Flappy Bird. And immediately after he put out that video, overnight that game saw millions and millions of downloads, to a point of time wherein the developers started earning $50,000 a day. As per the conversion at that time, it was roughly around 35 lakhs rupees every single day. And while these are success stories, there are a lot of failure stories as well. There are a lot of games that are out there in the market that do not see any kind of traction. So there's a fine bit of balance that goes into picture, and lots of luck. Even this game called Among Us that we all played during the pandemic had absolutely no downloads for almost 2 years, and something clicked and people started playing that game, and now that is an overnight success. So I would say an overnight success takes a long amount of time. Nothing is overnight. Your first game might not make you a millionaire, and I'm not saying that will not make you a millionaire. I'm saying might not make you a millionaire. And that's because luck can be on your side, and maybe your stars just shine brightly that particular day, and you might be able to make it. But it's a tough journey, and it happens to 1 in a million people. So if you are that lucky, just run with it. But you also have to realize that this might not be the case for everyone, and you have to struggle to the point of time till you get to that level. That is about your solo journey. Now let us talk about the other aspect wherein you go ahead and work for another company. This is also a very good choice. I mean, a lot of people, especially in their young age, they think that working for someone might not be as cool as what it would be for working for ourselves. And I would say contradicting my own self, because I'm also on my own entrepreneurial journey. But thinking of it from another side, there's no harm in going ahead and working for some other company and attaching your aspirations to them. Because I remember there was a point of time in my life when I wanted to work for Rockstar Games because I loved Grand Theft Auto so much. And there are advantages of that as well. See, when you're making your own games, there's no assurity that you will be able to earn from your games. Okay. It might take you 1 year, it might take you 2 years, it might take you a decade. Maybe you might never be able to make any money from making your own games. But when you're working with someone else, when you're working for a company, that time at least you're sure that you will get paid for your efforts. Okay, you'll get a basic salary. And for a few people, that is the dream. I mean, being a part of a game development company is also something really cool, because you get to pursue your hobby, you get to give life to a game, you get to paid for basically enjoying, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you pursue this career as a passion, if you like what you're doing, then it does not feel like a job. It's just yet another day wherein you're living the life of your dreams. So whatever you do in life, have that kind of passion with you, and also have a little bit of pragmatism with you. Let's say, for example, take you've decided that I want to become a solo game developer, or I want to start my own company, and I'll not work for any other company in that case. But during your initial years, I would always recommend to work for someone else, because that level of guidance that you will get from that 1 year, 2 year, or even 6 months of job will prepare you for everything that is lying ahead. It is just like your schooling journey. When you're doing a job, you're just being prepared for doing all the things in a structured manner. Because when you start off making your game, every single thing that you need to do, you need to learn by yourself. Okay, but when you're doing a job, you have your colleagues, you have a set process, set pipeline. Learn that pipeline, master that, and then perhaps think of starting your own journey. I think in that way you'll be able to learn and achieve much more. Because I would say so, with my own experience, I started my company as a bunch of friends. Then we ran this company for like 3 years. After that, I thought that I think I don't have that much of an expertise in this field. I need to learn a little more. So I started off fresh, and I worked under someone. I was fortunate enough to work under one of the industry veterans. I worked under him for 1 year. And after that 1 year, I came back and I restarted the operations of my company. So just to give you, sense of numbers, and this is not to brag or anything, I just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the right information. The first 3 years of our journey, we made absolutely no money. Okay, after I worked in that job for a year, I had a really good salary as well. So it took care of my personal expenses. It helped me create a small runway for my operations of the company. So it gave me savings. And in the first year of my business, I was able to achieve 20 lakhs rupees in terms of revenue for the company in first year. Okay, that is after 3 years of doing my company, when I did not earn anything. First year of my business, I started 20 lakh rupees. The year after that was the pandemic year, wherein everyone was kind of scared. People were uncertain and all. Year after that, immediately from 20 lakhs, our revenue grew to 2.36 crores. So we did 10 times the revenue of what we achieved last year. And the year after that, we were also able to raise a round of funding. We raised a total of, and this is public article. So we raised a total of 4 crore rupees for our company. That is what enabled us to go after our dream. So I would say always have a roadmap for yourself. Learn the ropes of the trade. Learn how things are done, and I think educate yourself. Keep on educating yourself, because even to this date, I would say that I don't know 100% of everything. I know perhaps 60% of one thing, 80% of the other thing, 10% of the other thing. So it really matters on how willing you are to expose yourself to the knowledge that you will get. And once you are willing enough to do all of that, everything else will fall to its own places. So that's it. That's my experience. I would say I wouldn't call it wisdom or anything, because I myself have a long way to go. But that's my experience, and looking forward to hopefully inspire some of you guys, so that eventually one day perhaps you will be taking my place and you will be one of the speakers at this wonderful initiative organized by GDSC. And thank you very much for inviting me, and it was my pleasure. Hope you all enjoyed as well.
Thanks a lot, Nikhil. Well, your experiences are wisdom, so that is how we take it to be. Because for us, anything that we can learn is something we call as wisdom, right? So here, there's a lot that we learned today regarding entrepreneurship, regarding game development, regarding even your personal career goals. Even though you're not planning on game development as well, these tips actually apply universally to all jobs. So with that itself, there are multiple questions that are coming up as well. So one question that came up regarding the entrepreneurial aspect previously by Fawn was how to create a market for a game when you're working solo and when you're the only person. Like marketing your game is the main question here.
Yeah, so there are two primary ways. One is organic and inorganic. Organic ways can be just simply talking about your game to as many people as you can, sharing it in multiple groups, Facebook groups or your Instagram, or create a YouTube video, put it out there and share these links perhaps on Reddit or anywhere. So marketing your game is essentially just your, I would call it sweat equity. What is sweat equity? Essentially, you have to go out there in the market, you have to talk about your game, and that is how you will be able to create that organic buzz. One very interesting way of promoting your games nowadays has popped up is something known as influencer marketing. So if you think that you've got someone who's a friend of yours who's got a really good YouTube channel, then you can approach them and you can tell them to talk about your game and get some bit of traction for your game. That's one. Second can be inorganic marketing. Now, in inorganic marketing, what you need to do is you need to have a small budget and you need to kind of invest that budget in advertising. So you can either advertise using your Facebook ads, your Google ads, or your Instagram promotions, anything. So you need to identify one channel in which you can spend money. And after that, you have to just identify two things. One is how much you're spending, and second is how much you're making. And if the amount of money that you're making is lesser than the amount that you're spending, then you're running in loss. If it is break even, then it's fine. If it is more, you're earning more than what you're spending, then that's an ideal case scenario. So these are some things that you need to always keep in mind while marketing, is that one, you need to set a budget. Second, you need to test the budget. If at all you're making a loss, breaking even, or profiting. If you're profiting, then go ahead and spend more money to acquire more users, because at the end of the day, that everything boils down to acquiring more and more users. How many users you have on day one, how many people are coming back to your game every single day. All of these things are very important.
Thanks for that, Nikhil. I hope that answers your question, Fawn. So actually, one small secret we kept from the beginning here is that Mamur Jankan, who is actually a development lead, is also a huge gamer. So I think Low Night Snack is his allies in gaming. So awesome. he goes by that. So any questions from your side, Mamur, and you can take over the session from now.
Right. I had a question which I didn't completely think that would be appropriate, but I thought why not? I since Nikhil is it, I should ask. So do you think there is a formula to making a good game? Because
I mean, if I knew that formula, then we wouldn't have made any kind of bad game. So right. I don't think there is a formula, but there is a way that you can kind of come near towards making a good game. And that's just by testing the game out through your, when you're into the production stage, test out your game with a lot of people and take their feedback, and don't get discouraged by the criticism or, someone. There will always be a case wherein there will be one particular person, no matter how much you try, they'll say that worst game ever. Okay. So that's one thing. And there is no formula, because, games are a creative medium, right? So, you can end up making a game that is a racing game, okay, but if you give that racing game to someone who is a girl who plays only Barbie games, then she'll not like your game. Vice versa, if you give a Barbie game to someone who's a hardcore gamer who's playing GTA and all, so they'll not like the game. So for them, that game will be a bad game, but for them, the hardcore game will be a good game. So there is no such formula as such to create a good game, that you do this, and then you'll be creating a good game. So there's no formula as such.
Yeah. Yes. No, because I played Hollow Knight, and then I played Valorant, and I loved Hollow Knight. I didn't like Valorant at all. So I thought
exactly.
Yes, So
exactly, and there are a lot of hardcore fans for Valorant, right? So right. Something that you like might not be liked by someone else, and something that they like might be liked by you.
Yeah. So
Mamur, there's one question in the chat which popped up. Would you like to address that?
Yes. Let me. I'll ask it to Vivek.
Yeah. It's about one more line. So there is a question by Fawn. I'll just ask it, and both of you, because you're all. First of, Nikhil is an expert in game development, and Mamur is a pro gamer. So I think either of you can answer this, or both of you can. So the question is that one more. The question starts with, I was really impressed by one more line, whose initial and later games are just doing fair. But I'm very much impressed with OMG Studios, their community and culture. Should I apply to that? So I'm not sure about these. OMG Studios, they're thinking about the community and application to OMG Studios.
Okay, OMG Studios, I haven't heard of the studio yet. I'll have to do a little bit of research on that. I'm sorry, I'm not capable enough to answer this question as of now. I have no idea about what kind of work they're doing. So I'll have to get back to on this.
Sure, Nikhil. And Mamur, anything from your side?
I had one question I asked him. I asked Nikhil. And, yeah. So, yeah, I would like to now take this opportunity and give a vote of thanks. So first off, hello everyone, I am Mamur, the development lead for GDSC NIT Andhra. First, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Nikhil and Shruti and Faiz, who were our speakers for different days, to take their time out of their busy schedules and share their expertise with our participants. Next, I would like to thank Ritvik, the lead, and Karthik, the web dev lead, to help out in this winter school and take up sessions ranging in DSA, web dev, and I also took it in GitHub. So yeah, a pat on the back for me too. Next, I would like to next winter school wouldn't have been possible with the help of the entire GDC team, helping with the sessions and managing things behind the scenes. So thank you, and thank you to the entire GDC team. I'm happy to be part of this team, and I'm excited to work with you in the future. Finally, thank you everyone for participating in winter school. Your enthusiasm is what keeps us motivated to organize more of such events in the future. Ritik, handing over to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that word of thanks, Mamur. First off, it's been the end of the year. Don't know how this year actually passed off because after 2020, I just felt like 2021 was just missed. Just that one year just gone away in calendar, and 2022 appeared out of nowhere. And we are now terminating this year with this great session and initiative which was taken by GDSC from 21st of December all the way till today was 9 days of super sessions that we were going